Hello, hello, good morning. Good morning, Internet family. Good morning, Sisters Lee, Sisters Vote family. Good morning, When with Black Women. Good morning, Black people. Okay, let me just say, I hope some of you got some rest. I have now transitioned. I am at the Black Women's Roundtable Summit, and we are going to be doing all of the things. But before we do all of the things, it is so important that we spend some more time talking about this continual resolution, about the vote coming up today at 1:15 in the Senate. If you're not aware of this, we're going to talk about it. Good morning, Deidre. I see you out there. Good morning, good people. Good morning, good morning, good morning. We're going to be talking again about the cloture. We're going to be talking about the vote in the Senate. We're going to need you to be calling your senators. It is not too late to let them know how you feel, to let them know that you will support them if they do the right thing, to let them know that we need them to stand up for us. Let's face it, whether you voted for these folks or not, they represent us. And we need to make sure that they know how we feel. Good morning, Deidre, Desiree. Good morning, Amanda. Good morning, Exceedable, Regina, Patricia, T. Hunt. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you for being, and listen, and I want to say a special thank you to my federal workers, like T. Hunt, who's standing up and saying, listen, I'm a federal worker and I vote no. Because I'm going to tell you something about federal workers before we get into this. Listen, if you work for the federal government, 9 times out of 10, you could be working in private sector and be making a whole lot more money. So there is a component where the people who work in federal service work there because they care about other people, because they care about America as a country, because they care about their communities and they want to be doing good work for their communities. And let's face it, this Trump administration is really cutting off their ability to do that. One thing that I always said during the campaign was no matter who's president, I believe in the federal workforce because despite the administration, they always come to work and do their job and make sure that they are doing so within the bounds of the law, servicing all communities. And then they do not deserve what's happening to them. But guess what, America? Neither do we. We don't deserve this. We don't deserve this. And I know, especially my sisters, I know we are tired. But let's talk about tired for a little bit. We are tired of systems that don't work for us. And we are tired of situations that don't see us. We need to change that. We're not doing business as usual, which is why, even though, like many of you, I've got 1,000,005 things going on, but I knew how important it was to come on this morning to make sure people had correct and accurate information and to make sure that we are able to stand together and have clear action and activity. I appreciate each and every one of you. I really do. Uh, oh yes, Regina, agree. The Department of Education employees want them to vote no, and you stand for service. I appreciate you, Regina. Let me see if I can pop your comment in. There it is. I stand for service. See, this right here, Regina, is why I have such respect for what goes on out in the world, and especially for our federal workers this today. I see my sister Sakela is back with us from Pennsylvania. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Desiree, for joining us again today as well. Definitely feel free to share. We are on Facebook. We are on Instagram. We are on YouTube. We are in all the places and spaces that we can possibly be. We're not doing this to be popular. We're doing this to make sure that our community is informed, because they're taking our folks off the news. They don't want to hear from us in terms of our perspective. But one thing that we can do, they cannot strip us of our voice. And in fact, there's a reason why freedom of the speech is the First Amendment, because that is one of the most powerful ways that we can make a difference. So I want to get into this. I want to make sure that you all know all the things. So what has tipped us off? What has us hold the line? Yes, Kimberly, thank you for that. Yes, thank you. Desiree says she has over 200 people calling every U.S. senator today. Listen, and those switchboards, they may be clogged up, but you just keep calling. If you can't get to a phone, go to their website, tag them on social media, let them know this is not okay. They are watching all the things. And trust and believe, this is just the first step that we're taking with the Senate. We're going to be talking about the Senate for the next couple of years, and we're going to be preparing ourselves to make decisions that help to impact what we need. So let's keep calling. Look at here. My co-host, Sakayla Coles, is coming through. Let's keep calling our senators. Here's the switchboard number, 202-224-3121, and tell them to vote no on closure. Tell them to vote no for this continuing resolution. So before we get into the very nitty-gritty of the specifics, and before we get into the message and what you need to say when you call, I want to explain to you exactly what has been going down. I want to explain to you and show you, because I'm a famous for the clap back, y'all. And so I need y'all to understand exactly what we're working with here. I'm going to have my production team play this video that was put together by a very brilliant content creator. Play the Schumer video for me.
We will win. We will win. We will win. We will win. We won't rest. We won't rest. We won't rest. We won't rest. While the CR bill is very bad, the potential for a shutdown has consequences for America that are much, much worse. For sure, the Republican bill is a terrible option. It is not a clean CR. It is deeply partisan. It doesn't address far too many of this country's needs. But I believe allowing Donald Trump to take even much more power via a government shutdown is a far worse option.
Listen to that. You got it right there. You heard it for yourself. He starts out as this fierce leader, which is why we have always respected Chuck Schumer's leadership. But right now in this moment, friends, family, he's letting us down. When we really need someone to stand up and fight, he's letting us down. He led the charge to hold the line, to whip the Democrats, to help them explain. But in the face of real challenge, because this is a very difficult decision, a very difficult decision. And in the face of that, he's saying, well, can't do anything. Might as well keep the government open. Keep the government open to do what? I got news for you. This government is already shut down. I'm not even sure what we're doing here. All right. So what we need you to do, one of the things we're going to be asking you to do is to call Chuck Schumer's office. We'll put the number up. Call Chuck Schumer's office. Let him know that this is not okay. Let them know that you are disappointed in his leadership. 202-224-6542. 202-224-6542. And let Chuck Schumer know that you expect him to vote no on the cloture vote. You expect him to lead other senators to vote no on the cloture vote. And you expect him to essentially do his job. Because not only is he representing the people of New York, and if you're from New York, shout out to the New Yorkers. Help us put pressure on Chuck Schumer to do the right thing in this moment. But all of us need to call him because as the leader, he is impacting the way we need our entire Senate delegation to respond. Okay, let's talk about what's going on real quick. Because some of you may not know. You may be seeing this, you may be seeing them talk about all these different things. So I want to break some things down. So this is a quick Senate lesson. Okay. So you all, I'm sure at this point, have heard about the filibuster. The filibuster is a procedural opportunity in which the minority party can stop legislation from passing by creating a filibuster, meaning that they just keep giving speeches and speeches and speeches and speeches. They hold the floor until the other party comes back to negotiate, or the bill just dies because it never gets a vote. And there's no time limit on speeches during a filibuster. And this is something that is available during any bill that has anything to do with a financial impact or a budget. The current continuing resolution, which is formally known as HR 1968. So we are looking for no votes on HR 1968. But even before we get to that vote, we want to make sure that they do not give up their right for closure. What that means is that if they vote, because what they can do is they can say, even though under the rules it would take 60 senators to pass, we can vote for cloture, which means we give up the right to require the 60 votes, and it allows the bill to pass with a simple majority. There may be some reason to do that, but that reason is not in effect right now. So we need people to vote no on cloture and no on the continuing resolution for this budget 1968, HR 1968. So, what are some of the things? And a lot of folks are saying, oh, my senator's voting yes, this is great. No, do not listen. I'm in my positivity era, so I want there to be more stuff that I get to vote for, but this ain't one of them. This ain't it. So what are we facing? Well, you already know that we're facing a government shutdown. So we know on the one hand, and this is the part that's kind of easy to understand, that if we don't vote for the continuing resolution, that the continuing resolution is a budget gap filler that would approve funding for government to stay open, and would give Congress more time to pass an actual budget. But here's the reality. On the other side, what they have done is they have put so much horrible crap into this continuing resolution. Excuse me, I got the hiccups now. They put so much crap into this continuing resolution that it's not what they call a clean bill. It doesn't just continue what we have come to understand as what it doesn't just continue the way things are, which is what normally continuing resolutions do. They don't really add or subtract anything. They just say we're going to maintain the status quo of funding until we figure out exactly what we want to do. That is what's known as, and you may hear it referred to as, a clean CR. This means, quite frankly, that the bill would just hold current government spending to current levels, providing more time for the full appropriations process to continue. Let me be very clear. HR 1968, which is not a clean bill, it is not a clean CR, would make changes to current spending levels, which would involve increasing defense spending by $6 billion and over $13 billion in cuts to domestic spending. This is unprecedented. This is unprecedented. Further, it gives the administration far more leeway to spend federal dollars without congressional approval. It also includes a provision that would prevent any member of Congress from attempting to terminate President Trump's recent declaration over national emergencies in terms of our immigration and our U.S. borders. He's also used this CR to impose broad-based tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China. So, and I want to note that this would actually be for a full year. So it's not just a few months. It's looking at, I'm sorry, this would be for 6 months until September. So rather than stay at the table, do the hard work of passing the budget, they would rather basically blackmail the American public and some of these senators and say, if you don't pass this bill, the government shuts down. Well, the reality is that what they're really saying is rather than do our job and actually negotiate and actually talk to our colleagues and make sure that the voices of the American people are heard, rather than do that, what we're going to do is just pass everything that we want to have cut in this continuing resolution bill and then blame the Democrats for shutting down the government. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. Do not fall for it. Do not fall for it. I don't have my list in front of me. So I got to remember who are some of the people that we want to call. Well, I know one of the people we need to call is Senator John Fetterman. Let's call John Fetterman's office. Let's make sure to keep calling. I'm putting John Fetterman's office. Thank you. John Fetterman's office number is here on the board. Yes, shut it down, Miss Yvonne. Thank you so much. Yes, we need to shut this down. Let me tell y'all something. This issue right here, yes, I am a proud Black woman, but this ain't a Black person's issue. This is a people's issue. And yes, we need to call all senators, but I'm going to point out a few. And if you call them one time, then call somebody else. Make sure you leave a message. And here's the very succinct message. Say your name. If you are a resident in their state, let them know that you are a resident. And then the next thing is say you're calling to urge the senator to vote no on the cloture. Do not give up the power to require a 60-person vote. That's all you have to say. It's a 15-second call, but it's a 15-second call that can mean so much. It's a 15-second call that allows us to make our voices heard. Let's be very clear. We elect senators and, frankly, all elected officials to represent us. But we, the people, we are the real leaders. Yes, let's call Brian Shantz as well, 202-224-3934. Let's make sure we're calling all the senators. Senator Angus King, that's another one. Look at my co-host. She's showing up. Let me put these numbers up for y'all. Look at my co-host. Go ahead, girl. That's why. Y'all know how much I love women, Black women, for stuff just like this. Yes, 202-224-5344. Let Senator Angus King know that we need him to vote no on the cloture. We need him to vote no on this continuing resolution. Essentially, we want to make sure that we are sending them back to the negotiating table so they are not allowed to just simply cut $13 billion in federal spending from across the board. And where are these cuts coming from? Well, we know one of the big cuts is coming from, I'm going to just keep putting up numbers. Thank you, Sakila. One of these cuts is coming from, and now there's two numbers and you call them both. One of these numbers is coming from FEMA. Now we just experienced, and we know, and let's be clear, natural disasters can happen everywhere. We just had a major national disaster in California with the wildfires. Last year, we had the natural disaster from the storms that hit North Carolina, of Tennessee, South Carolina. We're getting storms, and listen, I have a house in Texas that got hit by storms and hurricanes 3 times last year. And now you want to cut services to the federal emergency management system? What the heck is going on here? Government's whole job is to be a safety net for that when we are not able to do it as individual people, we get a little support from the government to help get us through. And they're trying to get rid of all of that. What in the world? Other programs that are going to be impacted, education. Here's a fun fact. Call and ask folks what percentage of your school, your local school's money comes through a federal source. These are programs that pay for things like disability services, like mental health services. These are things that pay for Title I programs, which involve a lot of things like free lunches. All of these are so important, and yet they're more concerned about shutting down a government that's dysfunctional any damn way than they are making sure that we can survive a natural disaster. Here's another group of people. If you are a veteran, and I'm just going to thank you, Sakila. I'm going to just keep flashing numbers up of different senators. You should call them all. You should call them all. If you are a veteran, I know there's so many veterans in our community. You have done the work of service. You have showed up for us in ways that most Americans have not. And they are rewarding you by firing your veteran service providers and taking away your money and limiting your opportunity to be supported. Veterans. We're going after the veterans. As a person who has a disability, let's talk about the folks in the disability community. Now, here's the thing. Maybe you're not disabled. Maybe you don't identify as part of the disability community. But do understand that at some point in your life, whether permanent or temporary, you will experience a disability moment. For some of us, it's lifetime. And in that moment, I know you want to make sure that the government is requiring accommodations so that you can continue to live your life as normally as possible. I'm talking about basic human services for people who are just simply trying to be a part of society. So I know we have some new folks who have joined us. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You want to know what we're talking about. I want you to know what we're talking about. So here's what I am doing. I want to make sure that we are reaching out to our senators. And here's the thing. I need y'all to reach out to every senator. So I may not be specifically calling your senator's name right now, but don't let that stop you because we need all the senators. I think I have the switchboard number. I got to put it back up. But we need you to call all your senators. Nobody should be left off the hook. I don't care whether they're Democrat or Republican. They need to hear from you. They need to hear from you. Yes, we're putting some up because we think those senators might be vulnerable. So it is especially important for you to call those folks. Those are folks who either have not said how they are voting, or they are voting the wrong way. They are not voting for. They are voting in favor of the closure. And let's talk about what the closure really does. Let's say, listen, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I said this last night. This vote puts senators in a position where they have to choose between bad and god awful. And unfortunately, for too many times in our lives, especially here lately, we have had to also make the choice between bad and god awful. We don't like it. It's not fun, but we're grown-ups and we're responsible for other people. So sometimes we have to choose between bad and awful. That's the job. But the question is, would you rather be cut on the arm or stabbed in the heart? Would you rather be cut on the arm or stabbed in the heart? And I don't know about you, but I'd rather be cut on the arm, because a cut on the arm means that the government gets shut down for a little while. Probably not even a long while, because nobody wants the government to be shut down. And it forces senators to put real pressure on themselves, the same pressure, by the way, that Americans are feeling every goddamn day, to say we need to do this for the American people. We need to actually sit down and make thoughtful, supportive cuts. And I'm going to say something that y'all probably are not expecting me to say. Republicans in this moment are scared shitless, not of losing an election, but of Donald Trump and Musk. Because right now, they're not whipping votes, they're threatening people, they're bullying folks. And so even those Republicans who don't agree with these cuts, who don't agree with the continuing resolution that has been put forward, are really, really scared, because they've never had to deal with the kinds of threats that they have to deal with right now under this current administration. So folks who are voting no, who are already voting no, folks who have said, yes, we're with the people, call them too and let them know how much you appreciate them. Understand that voting no takes courage. Understand that voting no is to a risk, but is a risk that we need to take on behalf of the American people. I know what you're thinking. We are really harassing a lot of people, but I want you to hear from one of our newest senators, and you know it's going to be a Black woman because we got two in the Senate now. I want you to hear directly from Senator Lisa Blunt Rochester and what she thinks about how people should vote.
Delaware, I'm voting no on this Republican funding bill. You've all heard me say, let me be blunt. Well, let me be blunt. I don't want a government shutdown. Never have. But the reality is Republicans, they control the House, they control the Senate, and they control the White House. They were the ones that walked away from the negotiating table. What did we ask for? We were this close on a deal. But what instead happened? They said they were going to put forward a clean bill, but what we got was a dirty deal instead. This bill actually gives more power to Elon Musk and President Trump. And they've already proven that instead of governing responsibly, they've been reckless, causing chaos, confusion. They've actually been shutting down government agency by agency already. What this is about is cutting Medicaid, slashing Medicare and Social Security, and giving tax breaks to ultra-rich people, but not lowering the cost of any goods for you. So Delaware, I won't vote to give away your voice. I'm voting to make sure that that person who texted me this morning about her Medicaid being cut off, that she doesn't have to be afraid. I'm voting to make sure that my friend who works at the VA and who is serving veterans right now, and all of those veterans who work at the VA, know that we're standing up for them. I'm voting no to make sure that we save our democracy.
And you know what? Thank you, thank you, thank you, Senator Lisa Blunt, Rochester, representing the great state of Delaware, but also representing all of us when unfortunately some of our own representatives are not. Listen, we need to understand exactly what this is doing. This continuing resolution, HR 1968, cuts rental assistance and homelessness assistance. It puts severe cuts into medical research and maternal and child health programs. I want to talk about that just for a second because we are finally making some progress on a lot of this medical research, and we've already been put in a position where it has been limited because of cuts to funding and grant funding, because this administration wants to pull out of the World Health Organization. You know how we were able to quickly resolve and come up with the vaccine for COVID? It wasn't because we were working alone. It was because we were pulling in millions of points of data across the globe, funneled through the World Health Organization, that allowed us to collaborate, allowed scientists to collaborate together to come up with what was necessary to ensure that we could live our lives a bit more normally. This is what I mean when I say, and I've heard some of our congressional members say, the government is already shut down. I mean, hell, most federal workers don't know if they're going to have a job from day to day or not. And we want to give these crazies even more power, unchecked power. We already know that they're going to be acting irrationally and foolish. It's time for us to do something different. We're in an unprecedented time. We have a criminal as a president who is continuing to do illegal acts, who's acting outside of his authority. He's disobeying court orders. He is running lawless. And yet, we're concerned about a government shutdown. The government is already shut down. This continuing resolution is also going to slash $40 million in election security funding. Now, I want y'all to think about this. What the Doge has done, Doge, I call it dog. What the dog has done is hired a bunch of young computer scientists who, by the way, they get shut down too if we shut the government down. I'm not kind of mad at that. I don't like people to be out of work or out of their job, but I wouldn't be mad if we had a few days or even a week without the dog for a minute and his computer scientists. And what they've done is they've taken over a lot of the contracts. And who do you think these contracts are then going to? Elon Musk. Let's be clear. This is a conversation about a billionaire class of people, and not all billionaires, but a substantial number of them, and all the rest of us. And one of the few places that we have equilibrium is with our vote. And the person who has claimed that we have all this election fraud, let's assume he's telling the truth. We got all this election fraud. We have vulnerable systems, and your response to the election fraud claim is to strip $40 million in election security funding. This is not just about guards or making sure that the voting places are safe. This is about making sure that the equipment is updated, making sure that we can run independent investigations to ensure that we have the highest level of integrity in our voting. These are the kind of things that we are fighting for. And yes, we have until 1:15, so we need you to call now. Call your switchboard, ask to speak to the senator from your state, give them 3 points. One, your name. Two, that you are a resident of their district. And three, we need you to vote no on closure. Vote no on closure. What else is going to happen if we pass this? If we vote yes on closure, it leads to an easy 50 simple majority vote in the Senate to dangerously underfund disaster relief. We're talking across the board $1.4 billion cut on Army Corps of Engineer construction processes. These are the projects that are mitigating the impacts of hurricanes, floods, tornadoes, tropical storms, wildfires. You name it, this helps it. Any kind of earthquakes, all these national disasters. It also substantially increases funding for ICE. And this, I have to say, as a person who lives and spends time in the District of Columbia, which is the only segment of land in this entire country that has no representation on the House floor or the Senate floor because it is not a state, want to cut $1.1 billion, forcing layoffs to first responders, police officers, teachers, bus and railway service workers, and all while doing nothing to save federal dollars. So understand what I'm saying. This is just freaking mean. They want to take $1.1 billion, and guess who those dollars belong to? They belong to the DC taxpayers. They want to take the taxes that are paid by DC residents, not your taxes that you might be paying in Michigan or you might be paying in Pennsylvania, or maybe you're paying them in my home state of Missouri, or maybe you're paying them in California. These are not your tax dollars. These are the tax dollars of DC people, and they want to cut them from their own freaking budget. I don't even know what to say. And this is what some of these Democrats are saying, yeah, that's okay. That's fine. Cuz you know what? The government will be open. The government will be open, but we'll be in total and complete disarray. We understand, everyone that you're calling the switchboard, that is going to ring busy. We get it. Keep calling. That's what we want it to ring busy, but also know there are other ways that you can get your message out. You can go to your official Senate page for your senator. On that page, you'll find a contact form, and you can go and fill out the contact form. And in filling out the contact form, tell them that you want them to vote no on cloture. You want them to vote no on HR 1968. Cloture is CLOTURE. Vote no on cloture and vote no on continuing resolution HR 1968. Those are the two messages. It is so important. We need your voices, and we need them right now. We need them fast. This vote is happening today at 1:15, and we need you all to help us. We can't do this for by ourselves. We all we got, y'all. If we don't stand up for this kind of thing, we're going to be facing some unprecedented times. And I mean, it's getting worse. This bill does not help things get better, it makes them worse. Also, on the government shutdown, I want to remind people that while essential services are going to be allowed to work, non essential services won't. And once they actually go back to the table and resolve this, guess what? Workers get their pay back, workers get their money back. Going back to my co-host, thank you so much. I want to remind you what we're asking is vote no on the closure vote, vote no on the CR, also known as HR 1968. Okay, we got some new people in the room, so I want to go back and talk about what all of this is. So Gary, G like Leggett, we're going to come to you, and I'm going to share with you exactly what we're talking about for new folks that have joined. Cloture. Cloture is a vote, a motion. It's a procedural vote that says that we agree to waive the rule that requires a 60-person vote in the Senate, which is made up of 100 people. So 60 represents 60%. A 60% vote is required in order to pass matters dealing with the budget. That's a standing rule. It's been a rule for as long as I know. But they can take a cloture vote, which says, we agree, which also has to pass by 60. We agree, which is why they need Democrats to vote on it. We agree that this bill should pass only by a simple majority. And we do not want, we are, in other words, giving up or agreeing not to exercise our filibuster right, which is a way that minority parties block bad legislation in order to keep the government open. That is what the closure vote is. And the vote for H.R. 1968 would be the next vote that is taken. So if closure passes, that means if people vote yes, but they shouldn't, they should vote no. It means that H.R. 1968 goes to the floor and senators are allowed to vote a simple majority. Put the phone number back up for me, the general phone number back up. We'll just keep that running for a while. It means that it passes by a simple majority. If they vote no on cloture, that means that in order for the CR to pass, it would take 60, not 51 votes. Well, those 9 votes make a difference. Why do they make a difference? Because those 9 extra votes mean that you have to get Democratic senators on board with the bill. And since they don't have the votes to pass it, that bill would now go back to the discussion table. It would go back to forcing senators to have to do their job. Now, I'm going to tell you something else. The House is on recess, which means vacation. I suspect the Senate would like to go on vacation too. Well, guess what? You can't go on no damn vacation. The American people need you. Hell, the House, as far as I'm concerned, needs to come back from vacation and go stand their asses on the front of the Senate steps and demand that they get this bill worked out and worked out fairly. That they do not, hey, I would even be happy with this. Come back with a clean CR. Come back with a CR that holds the line. Come back with the CR that says, okay, we do want to make cuts, but we're not going to force cuts on you in an emergency way. We're going to do a clean CR, which, by the way, we have literally done hundreds of times. Hell, if we want to be honest, we've been living on continuing resolutions for the last 5 or 6 years. Why? Because they are clean, because they are not asking us to make major changes to our government with no hearings, no discussions, no research, no impact. What in the hell are we doing, people? This should even be a no-brainer. No on closure, no on CR, also known as HR 1968. I hope that helped you, LeGrand. I hope that you will be a part of helping us to vote no. We do have about 8 senators that our friends at Black Pac are reaching out to specifically. So if you are from any of those places, and by the way, New Yorkers, we need you to call both Gillibrand as well as Schumer. Both of them are not in this, Gillibrand is waffling. And yeah, I know this is hard to talk about because honestly, a lot of these senators have been really good and on our side on most things, but they have chosen the worst time to go rogue. And especially after we know and we were counting on, because he said we could count on him, Senator Schumer. So I'm going to leave that switchboard number up, but I'm going to flash a couple of these other folks who we need to be calling. So call Senator Schumer, let him know your name, that you are from New York, and that you expect him to vote no. And even though he's publicly said he's voting no, yes, that you are very disappointed and that it's going to be difficult for you to support him in his next election. Let the people know. Now, let me tell you something. Schumer's a motherfucker because he done come out and said it with his chest. He said basically, I know that this is going to take $1.1 billion of DC taxpayers' own money away from them. I know, I know that this is going to impact veterans. I know that this is going to impact people who are unhoused and people who need support and rental assistance. I want everybody, let me tell you something. If you know someone or if you are someone who is receiving government assistance to help pay your rent, that's about to get cut, y'all. That's about to get cut. And I know so many of us have been worried about this unhoused population. It's not going to get better if we pass this continuing resolution, let me tell you. Let's be really, really honest about that. This is not going away. This is getting ready to get a lot worse. I know. What about those diseases that are impacting our children, that are impacting women in general, like me? Severe cuts to the research. 40 million cut in election security. 1.4 billion cut to the Army Corps of Engineers. Now remember, for those of us who are old enough may remember Katrina and the levees. This is the money that helps to pay for that. So the next time we get a huge storm and the levees break, you remember how your senator voted for this closure. You remember how they voted for HR 1968, and you look back and decide if that's who you want representing you. I suspect that it's probably not. I suspect probably not. And and this is just the tip of the iceberg, but this is why we need you. This right here is exactly why we need you. We need you to stand up and tell people, hey, this is not okay. So who are we targeting? We know Schumer. We got Schumer. We're also going to be looking at Senator John Fetterman. Senator John Fetterman, we need to target him. We're also looking at Senator Angus King. We need to reach out to Senator Angus King. We need to reach out to Brian Shantz, Senator Shantz. I'm putting their numbers up. We talked about Christian Gillibrand. Again, that whole New York delegation. New Yorkers, you ought to be enraged. Enraged. You ought to be marching in the streets because this is ridiculous. And I'm going to shout out in a bad way. We need to be calling Senator Sheehan. We need to call Senator Gary Peters. We need to call our Californians. Let's get out there. Senator Catherine Cortez Masto. These are the people who we need to call. These are the ones we need to focus on. But if you don't live in their states, if they don't represent you, don't worry about it. Call your senator. Make sure your senator is doing the right thing. Let them know that you are paying attention. Let them know that this is important. We have until 1:15 today. We have until 1:15 today to make a difference. I'm actually going to close the way I began. I want to re-show the video where Senator Schumer is basically willing to sell the American people down the river. And I want you to watch this as we close out and know why it's so important for you to call your switchboard operator. And we need them to do two things. We need them to vote no on cloture, and we need them to vote no on HR 1968. That's all you need to say. All right, I'm ending with the video, and then I may come back on. But at this point, I just want to leave space for us to go to work and for us to do the thing. Thank you all so much for joining me again this morning. Help get out. And if you've called the senators, if you've written your senator already, call your friends and ask them to do the same thing. Call your mom and them and let them know that we need their voices on this. I'm going to end where I began with the flip flopper.
We will win. We will win. We will win. We will win. We won't rest. We won't rest. We won't rest. We won't rest. While the CR bill is very bad, the potential for a shutdown has consequences for America that are much, much worse. For sure, the Republican bill is a terrible option. It is not a clean CR. It is deeply partisan. It doesn't address far too many of this country's needs. But I believe allowing Donald Trump to take even much more power via a government shutdown is a far worse option.